This is The Baseline, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Welcome, everybody. You're tuned to The Baseline. Callie Warrenshaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Woo! It's that time of the year, man. NBA basketball tip-off. Start of the NBA season. We're getting hyped for it, man. And if you guys have been checking out the previews, right? We previewed the Eastern Conference. We previewed the Western Conference. So what follows up right after that? Award previews. We can't, be true to the name, be true to the game unless we actually start calling out who we think might be hoisting trophies by this time of the year, by the end of the year. So let me go ahead and roll out the red carpet to my right-hand man. It's www.shawsports.net. Big Kahuna PNC, my man, Mr. Warren Shaw, repping out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. What's good, Mr. Shaw? I know, man, you're just chomping at the bit, man. You know what I'm saying? You're lining everything up right for that opening night. You know what I'm saying? Got the appetizers ready. Got the libations ready. You know what I'm saying? Got the multi-view set up properly.
Oh man, you're making me sad, brother. Because ironically, I think as you know, I'll be actually taking a little hiatus the night the season begins. So I'll literally be on a plane, looking at it on a screen probably about this big, but I'll definitely be tapped in.
Multi-view on different in different seats, right? Like
my wife will not allow it. There will be no basketball on her seat at all. There will be more Housewives or something of that nature. Some sort of comedy that'll be
maybe
on there.
Basketball Wives.
Yeah, yeah, she's into that too. So in any event, I will be regulated to whatever laptop or whatever device Delta has, and whatever games are available, I think, on TNT and ESPN. So, but I'm excited still, as you alluded to, the NBA season is actually upon us. No more, hemming and hawing and trying to figure out. We more or less are about to, kick it off here, right? So, exciting times here, and we bring back here now our awards previews, and some predictions as well too that will help us kind of matriculate through the NBA season.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And look, we are always appreciative when we get to this point because that means we're in it, right? We're vested in it. We're invested in the season, and it's another season of the Baseline NBA podcast. You know what I'm saying, kicking things off and rolling, with the NBA culture, in on their journey as well too. Before we begin, man, I want to make sure I give a special shout out, to the Las Vegas Aces. Their impressive run to now be two-time WNBA champions are unprecedented. Shout outs to Becky Hammon and the girls out there, man. They did their thing. They balled out. And then also a shout out to the New York Liberty. I believe it's like 20 years since it's been 20 years since the Aces were able to, repeat as champions. But it's been a long time since the New York Liberty had an opportunity to compete for a WNBA title. And although they fell short, you still have to be impressed with the roster, and you have to be impressed with what is, I think, brewing now in the WNBA culture that we're seeing, like kind of like a Laker feel kind of thing, where I think organizations really understand what it's going to take to put together a championship winning team. And when you have people like Hammond, and you have, up and coming stars like Ionescu, established stars like Wilson and Stewart, like, to me, it's the culmination of why the growing fandom and emergence of the WNBA is live and well. And I just want to make sure that, our show especially calls that out and just gives those kudos, man, because I got an opportunity to watch the WNBA finals, and it was exciting to watch. It was great basketball being played, heady basketball, championship caliber basketball. And I'm glad we're getting to those stages where that's where we should be looking at our athletes, whether male or female. That's what they do. That's what they're coming when they come into these arenas. That's what they're bringing to the court, man.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. They had an amazing season. The W probably had the highest ratings ever. A lot of people I saw on social media were having conversations about it, tapping in, and those WNBA finals were pretty exciting. So I have to agree 1,000%. I know there's some controversy in some of the ironically the final season awards, especially with the MVP, on that side. But ultimately, Wilson and Hammond and company were able to kind of get things done. Also, shout out to Sydney Colson. She's on that roster. And, in this aspect, so this will be a little bit of a shameless plug for me, but on my other podcast, Dope Interviews, had a chance to interview Sydney Colson's co-star in the Sid and TP show. So I actually interviewed Teresa Plaisance, and Teresa was on the Las Vegas Aces last year. So the W is in a lot of ways just getting a lot of great exposure. And we want to be able, we can continue to put that out there. But look out for that interview and Dope Interviews here with Teresa TP talking about the Sid and TP show coming to, well, it's already actually out on Fubo right now. So a lot of great W content out there, family.
Absolutely. Nothing shameless about your work, sir. I think you should take more bows, if nothing else, man, because you're making that. If nothing else, the only thing shameless is how easy you make it seem. If you were Steffortless before, called Steph.
Well, as I
How
said,
about
I
that?
learned from watching you, my good brother. I learned from watching you.
Oh man. Anyway, man, we've got a great show on tap for our listeners, and for those who are just coming on board with us, man, this is our annual preview of who we think may be hoisting trophies at the end of the year. So, and then also we're going to tap in on who we think will be the finalists for this upcoming NBA finals. So great show on tap. And as always, we appreciate those hopping on board and riding with the baseline. Be sure to get at us at NBA Baseline, my man Shaw at Shaw Sports NBA, or me at GameFace Lee, the show's Twitter handle at NBA Baseline. Go to www.thebaselinenba.com if you want to catch this episode and all our previous episodes. And also, if you're catching us via video on YouTube and you see the nice blue and white logo, that's the 19 Media Group. We rocks with the 19 Media Group. That's our family. Be sure to check out not just us, but also the great content, especially during the course of the NBA season. We got some great shows that are available for you to listen to if you're a favorite of, if you like listening to the Los Angeles Lakers or follow the Los Angeles Lakers. We got a great podcast that covers them. And we got great guys out there that are just covering the culture, entertainment, sports, the whole nine. So go to www.19mediagroup.com. and be sure to check out not just us, but the family of great content creators that are part of the 19 Media Group. Y'all, we're not going to waste any time, man. You know how we roll, baby. This is our preview, NBA Awards preview edition of the show. And obviously, we got a lot of awards to talk into. So, look, we base this especially not just from what our own observations are, but also what the feel is out there through the sports book agencies, primarily like FanDuel and MGM, Caesars and things of that nature. And so, we keep it aligned with the awards that are typically given or provided by the NBA. So the first one we're going to start with, Shaw, will be who will be the 2023-24 NBA Coach of the Year. And if you think of the parity of how the NBA is playing itself out and the way teams have operated in this offseason, which was, kind of like real busy, minus the major names, I think it's opened up the doors now, Shaw, for there be quite a few different coaches who have an inside shot possibly to hoist that trophy. Who is it that you feel has the best chance, though, to wind up being Coach of the Year this upcoming season?
So just jumping right into it in terms of how the season will unfold. A lot of times with all of these awards, narrative is probably the biggest factor into how the award is going to ultimately be determined. Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA by most people's accounts. The NBA GM survey just came out. He was voted as that as well too. They didn't get to make the splashy moves that a lot of people thought they were going to be able to make, especially when it comes to Damian Lillard. Spo is the favorite in terms of the Vegas odds or whatever the case may be, but I'm actually going to go with Mark Daigneault in at OKC. I think if we're going by what we said in our Western Conference preview, we expect OKC to take a massive leap, and maybe not massive, but a leap that actually has them potentially squarely in the playoff conversation. If that happens, especially with Chet being there the full year, another year of SGA continuing to grow, Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey, I think Daigneault will get that nod, if you will. And I think it's just a situation where people kind of see OKC coming, but maybe not in the same way that I'm predicting them, to kind of maybe actually fully capture, a top 6 seed in the Western Conference. So if that happens, I think he can get there. And there's lots of other names that you can banter about, but I'll kind of pause there, because I think, Mark Daigneault and OKC is primed for a big year.
I got to give it to you, Shaw. You decided to go right in the belly of the beast. To me, I would find it interesting because I would probably stay away from anyone in the Western Conference if you don't have too much confidence in any of the guys, because all of them have an opportunity. Mark Malone, Frank Vogel. Like they all have great opportunities to become coaches of the year. And I think a lot of it really plays into the scheduling and where teams are set up. And then obviously, too, because of this play-in tournament, right? I'm sorry, play-in tournament, but the NBA tournament in its inaugural season, there are going to be some key games and matchups that I really think is going to highlight, to your point, Shaw, an advantage for Mark Daigneault to really profile how dangerous the OKC Thunder team can possibly be. So that is a great opportunity. I'm going to go over to the East Coast, Shaw. And I know that this sounds crazy. I think had not the Milwaukee Bucks made the move that they made in getting Damian Lillard, I would almost go with JB Bickerstaff. I feel like even though he has the longest shot of them, he has the best equipped team that has the cohesiveness that if they win meaningful games and somehow are neck and neck with the Milwaukee Bucks like they were a few seasons ago, he has that opportunity where he can maybe even catch attention to people about how good a coach he really is, and him taking that leap forward to getting these guys to play the kind of basketball we're saying it's going to take for the Cavaliers to be, relevant in their run, even though there's still not a lot of confidence in that. So I'm going to lean now to Adrian Griffin. I think his team is set up that if as long as the Milwaukee Bucks show a level of dominance, I think we're kind of expecting them to take with this team, with this roster, he will probably wind up being the NBA Coach of the Year. Because outside of him, it's really, to me, Mazzulla and Spoelstra, and what those rosters look like, and what they look like in the grand scheme of things. I think I have more confidence in Adrian Griffin coming out as a Coach of the Year if they amass the amount of wins that we're expecting the Milwaukee Bucks to.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that pick at all because Milwaukee can obviously challenge for the best record in the league. Period. So the
Right.
coach should get some semblance of credit for that. A little controversy going into the season, though. Right before the weekend, Terry Stotts, who was an assistant coach on that staff, ironically after they got Damian Lillard as well too, Stotts resigned. And there's an article out there, I think it's from Shams, who's more or less saying that Griffin and Stotts more or less had some semblance of a falling out already. And Stotts was like, listen, I'm not even going to go to the year with this BS. And he just walked away from that entire situation. So I'm a little uneasy, and that's not to say that Griffin can't overcome, but I'm a little uneasy about stuff like that going in. But I like that pick in general because, I mean, it
But it's
seems
a
like
level of
it's very
boldness.
possible.
He's like, listen, you're either with me or you're against
Yeah.
me. And rather than riding guys because they've got, notoriety, or they've got a resume showing that they've been successful in the NBA coaching sphere, whatever the case may be, I think Adrian Griffin is saying, hey, I'm marking my own territory on this, and I'm going to own whether or not this team is going to be successful. I'm not going to just lean on the politics of what typically happens. And this is nothing against Terry Stotts, but I to your point, Shaw, and I think it's an excellent point, but it could also bolster Adrian Griffin, much less like we said the same thing about Darvin Ham and how he handled the roster last year with the Los Angeles Lakers. And I know, to your point, the fact that we might not even be mentioning Darvin Ham as a possible, Coach of the Year candidate, I think that there's a pathway for him there. But it really depends on what the agenda is for the Los Angeles Lakers, especially through the course of the regular season, and can they sustain a high level of winning basketball games in order for him to be validated as a Coach of the Year candidate.
Yeah, I'm gonna say one last thing, and I think that's actually a really great point too. Lakers fans are probably like, "What the hell?" If we're going to stuff the Vegas odds, Ham needs to probably be in this conversation to some degree as well too. But if we're gonna go in terms of narrative, one guy is also set up extremely well if he can kind of get his team over the proverbial hump, and that's Taylor Jenkins in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
No Ja Morant for the first 25 games. Just right before we record, Steven Adams is now out for the entire year with a foot issue. They didn't anticipate that. They were expecting Adams to be back after he'd missed so much of time last year as well, too. They're still behind the 8 ball with Brandon Clark. He won't be back until January or February. If Memphis can even hold down a top 6 seed in what is a very loaded Western Conference with all those things against him, Taylor Jenkins has to deserve some credit for that. So in terms of narrative, I think he has some things going in his positive direction, but obviously he needs to play out in a way that keeps Memphis, squarely in the playoff conversation.
Real quick, Shaw, before we jump over to clutch player, what do you think about Willie Green's chances? How much of that is resting on Zion Williamson's
All of it.
health, and
I
which
mean,
really sucks,
no, no,
right? Because
I take that back. Not all of it. A significant amount, right? Willie Green's a good basketball coach,
he
and they
is.
figured out ways to get it done without Zion here, especially within the last year. So I'm still confident in what his ability is. I just think they're at a stage where for them to have any semblance of growth or for him to be into that level of conversation, they can't just get by. And they will not only just get by unless Dion is there and healthy and playing, 60 plus games this year. So he's a great basketball coach and a great potential pick here. But it's solely almost single-handedly dependent on the availability of all his guys, Zion and Brandon Ingram, because he's missed a lot of times as well too. So, but I like that conversation. I like that you brought that up.
Absolutely. You're tuned to the baseline. Callie Warren-Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA, and this is our NBA awards preview. We're making our selections who we think might be hoisting trophies at the end of the year. So let's transition to the NBA Clutch Player of the Year, Shaw. This is one of those new awards, over the last couple of years. And you and I were talking about this before we jumped on and started recording this episode. I am still not completely buying this award. I do like the idea or thought behind it in a way. I don't know where it's translating to what we typically see when players do this in a regular season to what it's supposed to look like in the regular season. And maybe that's just something that just has to, continue to build as it goes along. Last year, De'Aaron Fox hoisted this award. Who is it that you probably see become the NBA Clutch Player of the Year for this upcoming season?
So I'm going to go with what everybody is bantering about going into the NBA season here, and it's Anthony Edwards. While he's not the highest in terms of the odds going into the season, I believe he's primed for this level of impact. And when people talk about the leap, I'm thinking about fourth quarter scoring. I'm thinking about getting your team over the hump in those clutch moments, not necessarily averaging 32 points a game this year. He can still be at 28, 27, whatever that is, but do the bulk of those points come in the most meaningful times? And I think he's primed to take that level of a leap when it comes to his stardom. The other pick would be Luka. If he can stay healthy, I think he will probably have this. If he'll be amongst the top leaders in terms of fourth quarter scoring and clutch points, I think Dallas will be in a lot of close games. But I'm going to hedge my bets a little bit here towards Anthony Edwards, and no shade to De'Aaron Fox, who I think will still be in the conversation too. But Anthony Edwards is my pick this year.
I'm going to pull a fast one on you, Shaw. I'm going to lean more to SGA, bro. I think this is an opportunity, again, for him to really be in the spotlight. And I don't know where he's going to be in the conversation, say, of like MVPs. I don't know how big of a leap. I know that you believe in the confidence of Dagnall, which is the reason why you would be leaning towards him to being coach of the year. And sometimes like these type of awards, they don't typically tie each other together. The NBA is one of the few leagues in which if you have, coach of the year and MVP, they usually are not hand in hand, right? They're of separate entities. So I can understand where you would probably be like, I can see Dagnall being coach of the year before I see SGA. But we've seen SGA put on performances that have been considered clutch. It's just been a matter of the components around him to really kind of, exemplify that level of clutch in that clutch gene in him. I think this is a great opportunity. I think if we're saying that the OKC Thunder is planning to make the type of leap they're going to do, SGA is going to be a very, very big part of it. I'm not going to say MVP, consideration part of it just yet, but I definitely think in the space of what the clutch player of the year is supposed to mean, I think he has as good a shot as any to be able to hoist that trophy.
He's way up there, and there's no reason to throw or besmirch his name in any capacity. I'm a big SGA fan. I was thinking about something before we recorded this weekend, and remember not too long ago, well, I guess it's a little while ago, we did a Who You Got.
Yep.
SGA and John Morant. I'm feeling pretty good.
You feel pretty confident about that one.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Ja, you owe me, bro. All right, let's talk about the NBA Sixth Man of the Year, Shaw. It's interesting because just as we were talking about the clutch player of the year and how it hasn't garnered momentum, I feel like the Sixth Man of the Year has somewhat faded in momentum. This used to be considered an award of such high importance. And I'm not saying that any of these guys who would be in this consideration are not players of high importance. It's just the magnitude of what this should mean. And I think you brought it up even, a little while ago, Shaw, is that it feels like because we have now, moved to this level of positionless basketball, being labeled as a sixth man of the year doesn't seem to have the same oomph because these type of players are players who have either started and have relegated themselves to basically come off the bench, but are contributing significant minutes that almost warrant that, like, there really should be 6 starting players rather than just 5, right? Like, so what are we talking about here now with NBA six man of the year? And whoever it is you're going to choose, I want to throw this caveat in this question into this caveat, y'all. Whoever you choose, how significant will their contribution be? Is this going to be a numbers based, look at the 6 man, or do you actually see this person being an X factor type player in what they can bring to the table? Maybe reimagine the role of the 6 man, and this award.
Yeah, I don't think we're at that stage yet. It's just going to be the guy who scores the most points off the bench, or has that level of impact. And I think in this way, the odds makers kind of have it right. You're looking at quickly Norman Powell potentially. I think Powell will probably end up having to start because of the whole Kawhi PG factor a lot, which would negate his, at least in my ruling, his ability to legitimately be a 6 man for the entirety of the year. Quickly will start some games here and there, but I think he'll primarily be regulated to a bench role. So that's where I'm going to go. A little kind of short and easy on this one. I wish there was a way. We don't know all the rotations just yet. So, if Bruce Brown were to come off the bench in Indiana, he could be somebody who doesn't just do it from a scoring standpoint, but an all-around standpoint. But I think he's probably going to start in Indiana. So that kind of negates his candidacy, so to speak. There's a couple of people even in the Orlando Magic thing because they have too many guys. So somebody's going to have to come off the bench there. But I'm just going to go with Emmanuel quickly to kind of call it safe and make it easy.
All right. I'm going to go with the monk. I'm going to go with the perverted monk, Malik Monk.
There we
Um,
go. Nice.
yeah, listen, he was, I don't want to call it a resurgence. I think he just found what kind of player he is. And it's not even so much the fact that he's a 6 man player of the year. It's just, he just has that it factor in him that he wants to score the basketball. I've never seen this level of aggressiveness in him. Maybe he was listening to some J. Ruta damage, or, before he decided to get on the basketball court now, because he is not the same type of dude. You know what I'm saying? And he's basically telling anybody that's in front of him to come clean. So as far as I'm concerned, until I understand the dynamics, the only person who I would probably see in that elk, so to speak, with the potential to do that would be Emmanuel Quickly from the Knicks, who they have, as the odds on favorite to do it. But I just think Malik Monk has more opportunities to do it better. And with the type of offense that they are playing out there with Brown and with Fox and Sabonis and company, I think that he's primed and poised that he can definitely be, an offensive machine for the Sacramento Kings. So it'll be interesting to see how, the odds makers look at this through the course of the year. But right now, I'm looking at the perverted monk.
Yeah, I love that too. And we shouldn't poo-poo the idea that Brogdon could repeat. If he stays in Portland, he can have a very similar year in terms of production. It won't necessarily impact winning in a way that it did up for Boston per se, but there's a realistic possibility he could do almost the exact same thing. He's there for as long as he's there. The question here is just, is his role going to be that? Will he be in Portland, or does he go somewhere else where he ends up starting, or whatever the case may be? And one other name to watch is if Harden is moved to the Clippers, presumably Russ would then come off the bench, and then that would have Russ and Norman Powell competing for that role, which could probably negate Powell's candidacy because Russ would be coming off of the bench to try to produce in that same capacity as well too.
Absolutely. You're tuned to the Baseline. Callie, Warren Shaw, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA, and this is our 2023-24 NBA Awards preview. So, Shaw, let's go ahead and do NBA Most Improved Player odds. This is a pretty good this to me, I've always found this to be the next tier before you start profiling your superstar players and elevating them into those MVP conversations. Or this is, well, we can't give this dude the MVP, but he's so deserving, so we'll give him Most Improved Player odds. It's just like, that's the extreme when it comes to this one. But who is it that you have slated to probably walk away with the MIP award?
So there's a couple of guys on the list that I really, and I mean really like. But the person I'm going to go with here is Alperen Şengün in Houston. I think Udoka is going to get a certain level of production and expect him to play a certain level of defense as well that will have him hustling and really contributing in a way that we haven't seen, in addition to what he does offensively and rebounding already. We keep calling him, the great value, Jokic, if you will. And I don't think it's a crazy statement. He's not the MVP of the league. He's not the NBA Finals, MVP. Like we understand that, but he's got a very similar game and feel where, especially when it comes to the offensive side and his ability to operate and get his teammates involved and stuff. So I like Şengün. Easier picks are Bridges, and I think Jordan Poole's obviously going to go nuclear in Washington. Can't be mad at any of those things. But the other guy who I really like is Tyrese Maxey. But I'm just going to go with Şengün for the sake of argument here.
Yeah, so this is tough, man, and I would really love to see Cade Cunningham, really elevate himself in this space. It'll be interesting to see how Monty Williams utilizes him, that he could be put in this particular space. And I think health is going to still be a big thing. If he can stay healthy for about 75-80% of his games, I think he'll be in contention. But I got to tell you, man, if everything continues to go the way it's going right now in Philadelphia with James Harden, expect this to be the year that they finally, give Maxey his due. And I think if we're talking about the seriousness of the 76ers, competing and contending, they cannot do it without Maxey elevating himself to that next level and staying on that level. And I think that's the only question, in regards to that. And I agree with you to your point. It would be so easy to go with Mikal Bridges, because if you look at what the Nets did in the offseason, it's just give more opportunity for Bridges to really go out there and just ball out the same way I'm thinking we're expecting Jordan Poole to kind of go and ball out, right? So, but the problem that I have with both Poole and Bridges is they're volume guys. They have to take so many shots. Their level of efficiency, I don't know if whether or not it's gonna compromise the impact of what else they could bring to the table that makes them deserving of this award. So I think the person who kind of like brings that all together the best, and you've kind of seen that over the last few seasons while playing in the shadow of an MVP player of Joel Embiid, is a Tyrese Maxey. And I think if we're talking about the seriousness of the Sixers, again, Maxey is going to have to be that guy. He's going to have to elevate what we're saying. This team can't go without Embiid, Maxey, and then whoever else they'll have if Harden continues to be an MIA type player for the franchise.
Yeah, my only argument is the Harden thing. That's why I'm not confident in the Maxey pick. I think he's awesome. I do. I think he's awesome, and they should unleash him and let him ride out to the max.
How Nurse navigates through that, right, Shaw? Like if Nurse isn't going to tolerate James Harden, and neither will Morey. And listen, Nurse has to he's at the mercy of Morey. Morey is like, look, I'm done with this dude. I understand we got to pay him and all this other kind of stuff, but you do not allow him to affect what we have to, in the next couple of years, you have to start making decisions about what do you want to do with Maxey? Where does this team go with a guy like Maxey?
Extension is still pending. Yep.
Yeah, so that's my thing. Like, I don't see Morey and Nurse compromising what potentially could be damaging for years to come at the expense of a James Harden. If it means Maxey has got to be that guy, Maxey's got to get that ball. Like, I'm not saying there's sabotage involved. I'm just saying, just the way things are trending, how you make Harden, you de-relevize Harden. I know that's not completely the word. It's my word. I'm sorry. But how you de-relevize Harden goes a long way on how you make Maxey relevant.
I'm going to put that in the show notes, de-relevize.
Relevize. There you go. The revolution will not be revelized. Oh, man, you're tuned to The Baseline. Callie Warren Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Coming up, we got Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, MVP. And then, we also have to make our picks for who's going to the finals. So we got that and so much more, so you don't want to miss out. But first, if you like using debit over credit, I just learned about something that's definitely a game changer. Discover Cashback Debit. It's a checking account that rewards everyone with cash back on everyday purchases, which means you can get cash back on tickets for the game, snacks, team merch, all with no fees, making this season a total win. Check out eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC. More Baseline, Callie Warren Shaw. Don't go away. back. Lee Warren Shaw, Baseline NBA Podcast. This is our 2023-24 NBA Awards preview show. So let's get it moving, get it popping, let's get it crack-a-lacking, Shaw. NBA Defensive Player of the Year. Who is our Debo for the defensive side of things, Shaw?
I'm going to lean into optimism in a way that I don't usually going into an NBA season. And to me, the best defensive player in the NBA when healthy is Anthony Davis. I think he changes the game
I
in a
thought you were
way
going to
that
call him out by his government name like our boy Jabari does.
Anthony Marshawn Davis. Yeah,
There
shout
you
out
go.
to JD. I think we've been pounding this drum
That's
and
when he's
waiting
beast
for it.
mode. He's Marshawn. He's beast mode. You want him in beast mode, don't you? Yeah, you do.
We do. I feel like he has a renewed excitement and presence. Darvin Ham, as you alluded to earlier, has a good pulse of this team. It's just about AD keeping up with his body. And whether or not he's hitting threes or not hitting threes or contributing offensively, the defense is always there. So if he can play the 65 games minimum, I think he can win this award almost going away. While there's a lot of fervor for Evan Mobley, I think right now in Cleveland, which I don't think is a bad selection in any capacity. Anthony Davis has a way to do it that's both kind of on the intangibles and the loud things that you see that are just like, oh my God, and awe dropping. To me, it's AD if he can stay healthy and play the 65 games.
Yeah, so I think that's the key, right? And if you looked at what the odds makers basically did, they have Evan Mobley as having a better opportunity of winning Defensive Player of the Year over Anthony Davis. And the only reason why is because Anthony Davis is never available for the requisite number of games, at the end of the season in comparison to those who have previously won, Jaren Jackson, Giannis Kupo, so Mobley has somewhat of a little, small inside track to getting to that. I like the Anthony Davis pick, but I'm going to go with the freak. Okay. I don't know what it is about Giannis Shaw. I don't know if maybe there's another element to this that he has to prove or wants to prove. I think that he recognizes that the way to the Milwaukee Bucks being the team that he expects them to be, they have to be better defensively. Now, last year, they squandered a great defensive season by Brook Lopez. To say that he will replicate that in this upcoming season, I think is a stretch. You know what I'm saying? That, to me, puts more the onus on Antetokounmpo's presence on that basketball court. And listen, let's couple this with what it is. Damian Lillard has never been a solid defender, not like Drew Holiday. So it's back on Giannis's shoulders. And I think he wants to prove to people that he is not just the most dominant basketball player offensively when he needs to be, but he can also be the most dominant defensive player on the court. And we've said if the Milwaukee Bucks have an expectation to win this championship, it's got to be them being better defensively. And it really starts with Giannis's emphasis again to dominate on the court, not just in the paint because of his size, but his ability and versatility to defend the wing players, which has made a resurgence again in their ability to stop penetration from the three-point line down. You got to have Giannis on that type of level or in that type of game, and I think he's going to do that this season.
Validity in that statement, 1,000%. Dame brings gravity offensively that will allow Giannis to actually exalt more energy on the defensive side of the basketball. So no complaints. I can see how that could absolutely go that way. Giannis is saying all the right things. He's motivated going into the season, wants an NBA championship, knows he has a running mate in Dame. Yes, Lopez, yes, even Middleton are not the same defenders they used to be, but Giannis can make up for that, especially with having the help of Dame on the side offensively.
Can I throw an X factor player though in this one, Shaw, who can shake things up?
It's our show. Of course you can.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Jaylen Brown. Watch for him in the Celtics, okay? Because now that Drew Holiday is there, I think Jaylen is going to learn from Drew on how to be a defender that is not exerting so much that he can't give when it's necessary because of the emphasis that they have to be offensively. Like he's going to help show him how to have that balance. And listen, last year the Celtics relied on Brown almost as much as they relied on Marcus Smart in his ability to defend multiple players, which we're expecting that to still be the case. Even if we're saying that Drew Holiday is on that court and he's still a defensive bulldog, I still think that the highlight of where Brown's elevation can be is his ability to defend multiple players, star players on the opposition, and to really have success against those guys. Watch for Brown. I think he has an opportunity to sneak in there to be in consideration for the D boy.
Well, I'll throw one more in there. And I think what I've seen in preseason, and it's going to lead into our next award there, but I've seen enough. Wembanyama is definitely a dark horse candidate, I think, for this award.
Very
For
much so.
defense, you it's insane. The just he's so, I'll use a word that's not a word, flimsy, right? He's like Mr. Fantastic
Is that
out there.
wedge between flimsy and long, like flimsy?
He's like Mr. Fantastic out there, man.
Reed
He's
Richard. That's what
literally
we're gonna call
everywhere.
him, Victor Reed.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Victor Richard Reed Wembanyama.
Yo, it's I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. He's got an outside shot to be defensive player of the year in his rookie season.
All right, nice. Well, so now we can go ahead and transition, Shaw, to NBA Rookie of the Year, right? And listen, I think this is an impressive list. Probably more impressive than over the last couple of years, because every one of these guys, I really do think have a great opportunity. I think obviously the spotlight and the marketing and all of the hype around Victor, puts emphasis that he's a shoo-in. But I really think that when you look at each of these players, and probably, is it, even though it sucks for Chet Holmgren, because maybe last year he could have very much have been a Rookie of the Year winner, so to speak. If you look at what Chet Holmgren can bring to the table for OKC and the level of success required, if his calling card is what he can bring defensively to the table for OKC, and that team takes significant leaps in doing so, he could very much be in that conversation, Shaw. So it's really interesting how this NBA Rookie of the Year is lining up, because this might be the one that I think might be toughest for people to call on, even though it's easiest because Victor is in the conversation to win it automatically.
I'd say Scoot has impressed me in the preseason and understanding what it would be. But as we talked about on the conference preview last week, not really sure what the role delineation is going to be for him just yet. So that's why I have him just outside of this conversation. Chet was my preseason pick, but as I've watched and kind of witnessed the magic that is Wembanyama, I truly do think it's his award to lose. So Chet will be awesome. Scoot will be awesome. Brandon Miller, if they decide, Gordon Hayward it's time for him to, regress and go to the bench, then Brandon Miller can maybe get some run out here as well too. And the Thompson twins have also impressed as well too. Azir more so than Amen. I think Azir
They're
has
just
a
not
great
going to get as
chance
much
for minutes in
opportunity.
Detroit.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're just not going to get as much.
Great chance there. But I'll go with Wembanyama. There's really not much else to say. He's been phenomenal, and as long again as he can play the minimum amount of games, then I think he's got this one locked up.
Right. And I think what we're looking at here again, Shaw, is he's going to have the opportunity. He's going to have the numbers. I am more so looking at those second tier guys and where they're all, where they can all elevate to. And to me, the one who has the best leap forward, so to speak, is Chet Holmgren, because I don't think people are putting as much emphasis on what he can bring to the table offensively, because OKC is already a great team offensively, but his contributions could be significant to his Rookie of the Year candidacy, right? But if he is solid on the defensive side of the basketball with a level of consistency, and the spotlight being on OKC Thunder in critical games at the early outset of the season, he can start generating that conversation early. We'll see if that plays. And I'm kind of, putting it on, but I agree with you. It's Wembanyama's to lose. But I'm really I like what I saw from Holmgren and what I think he can bring to the table. And it could all just come together right for him to kind of, nudge Wemby a little bit, make those OKC Spur games really interesting, what I'm saying, through the course of the year. Start brewing up some rivalry there.
No, but real talk. And they had a great preseason matchup, and it's been a lot of fun. So some people have called it the Skinny Bowl when they go against each other. So yeah, it's going to be a good year. That Spurs and Thunder will be must see TV this year, as both of those guys are playing.
It's the thinning. You're tuned to the Baseline. Callie Ward Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA, and this is our 2023-24 NBA Awards preview. All right, Shaw. Time for us to do that MVP odds, Shaw. So last year, Joel Embiid finally got his. We are happy for him. No more complaining. Okay. Um, and if nothing else, it proved we gave you the MVP, and yet you still can't get that damn team to the finals. So it's
Yeah,
yeah,
you know.
listen. Now that we understand, now that we're done with the sympathy given, let's really talk about who's going to get this damn award, Shaw. So who do you have slated to win MVP awards?
I don't have a super sexy pick here. It's a the
Well, some
issues
of
that
the
we have with the
selections
NBA.
that they've got, they don't come off looking super sexy. Jokic definitely does not look super sexy, right? His
But
numbers and everything about him is super sexy, but
but it's the
it,
narrative, right? And
it's
I think because they didn't want to award him three in a row, and Joel had played as good as he did, led the league in scoring, etc. Uh, I just don't know that you can deny Jokic another award this year. Giannis, as you alluded to, extremely motivated. So should be out for blood. Could potentially do things on the defensive side and win that award, as we talked about a little bit earlier, which would also give him another leg up here to be in the MVP candidacy. They just kind of always throw Luca in the conversation. I just don't think Dallas is going to get enough wins. While his numbers statistically will be amazing, I just can't go there. We keep waiting for Tatum to take that level of a leap. I don't know that he can with all the help that he has here now. So I think it's while Boston should be amazing, I don't know if Tatum will be able to garner the credit as a result of that, because people will look and say, well, you have Jalen Brown, you have Kristaps Porzingis, Andrew Holiday here now on your roster. So that just kind of like leads me back to Jokic. There's again the tire narrative of like, well, we don't want to give somebody X amount of awards in a row. He didn't win it last year. Denver still expected to be great. He still expected to be great himself individually. So that's where I'm going to go with it. You could argue Embiid could have a chance because of all the turmoil around him, and Philadelphia is able to still retain the top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference with the Harden mess happening. Then Embiid should deserve a lot of credit for that. But I just don't think the voters are going to go that way. There's a lot of voters' remorse for giving it to Embiid last year, and I just think he's going to be out of it for this upcoming season. So leads me back to Nicola.
well, it's interesting that they don't have the likes of like Steph Curry and Anthony Davis, listed high up the food chain, so to speak, because I
Yeah,
think
Curry's in
what
that
we're
next
saying,
year, but yeah.
yeah, it's interesting because what we're saying is that for either of those teams to really get to an NBA Finals, it's going to really take that level of play from those type of players to do so, and I think they're very much capable of doing it. I agree with you because I think Shaw, it's hard not to see Jokic positioning himself again at doing it. And if you look at the way that Mike Malone, I don't know what kind of, Svengali, thing he's got going on in these dudes. You don't hear, the Jamal Murrays and the Aaron Gordons and the Michael Porter Juniors, talking like, I would love to get me an MVP title, you know what I'm saying, an award, MVP award at some point in my career or whatever the case may be. It almost feels like they are comfortable recognizing who the centerpiece of their lavish, you know what I'm saying, their lavish living space is. It's Jokic, and they believe that they become better players because of what Jokic brings to the table, which puts more emphasis on why he's an MVP player year in and year out, right? So it's interesting until something shakes that narrative loose. I think it's Jokic. I will say a hard second place, regardless of Damian Lillard being on that team, is Giannis Antetokounmpo. And to your point, I'm expecting Giannis to have monster numbers, and I want to see if whether or not Adrian Griffin is going to let Giannis loose. I think
Mhm.
that over the last few seasons, you've seen Budenholzer kind of coddle Giannis, protect Giannis, right? And put more emphasis on the rest of the other guys, and maybe to his demise. I think Giannis, not saying he doesn't have any faith in his team, not saying he doesn't have any belief in his team. I think he fully believes. I think he fully believes that he needs to be out there for as many minutes necessary to put an exclamation point on the dominance that he believes that the Milwaukee Bucks should have as a basketball team. And there's also one other little narrative, shot that may not get talked about. It's not to pit against players, because as far as I'm concerned, how the Milwaukee Bucks handled the situation with Drew Holiday was wrong. I think that there is a genuine friendship and appreciation for Holiday and Giannis, and obviously respectively with their families and what they've done with the Milwaukee community and at large the basketball community. But I do think there is that egoism in certain players that when that talk gets thrown out there about how Drew Holiday helped get Giannis that title, right? You don't think Giannis doesn't think about that now that Drew isn't there? He wants to be the person responsible of getting not just his second title, but getting Damian his title. As much as we think that Damian coming to the Milwaukee Bucks is getting a title for Giannis again, I really think Giannis believes that he is going to be the reason why that team always is in contention to win a championship. And so that type of thought process, I don't think gets talked about at times, but that's exactly the kind of ego you want in a guy who believes that he should be the most dominant player in the league. And I think that may elevate him. If Jokic doesn't win it, it would not be surprising for me if Giannis winds up winning it, because I believe that he thinks that he can win it without Drew Holiday and that he's getting Damian the title, not vice versa.
I have nothing to add. Giannis is an amazing and awesome pick. I'm right there with you. If not Jokic, then Giannis. After that, it's a crapshoot for me. Tatum can get into this. Maybe you could throw Luka Bowen if you were so inclined. SGA, as we talked about a little bit a while ago. But then you're just like kind of fighting for scraps. I think it's a kind of a 2-horse race going into the season with those two guys, as we mentioned. And and no American is going to win this year for a little while. I mean, I know Curry is in the conversation as well too, but I just can't see him usurping all those other guys here. I think Giannis and Jokic are the other two clear favorites.
And you really think about this, Shaw, in a year where we didn't want to talk about how it's, sympathy handouts for the MVP award. I wonder if Ja Morant is kicking himself immensely, because this damn well could have been a really good year for Ja Morant to sneak in and really get those conversations if he's to be as good as everyone expected him to be for the Memphis Grizzlies and where the Memphis Grizzlies really have been and should be at this particular time frame.
Yeah, well, Ja, we don't even need to really go there. I think, yes, it's going to be a wasted year. And now they have some more issues, as we alluded to earlier on. But if we're talking about way out there sleepers when it comes to health, what about Ja's counterpart, his draft mate, in terms of Zion Williamson? If Zion, again, we know that's a big if, but if he's available, New Orleans has shown that when he's there, they are awesome. And we talked about Willie Green as well. So I don't think Zion's going to win the MVP. But when you talk about those third and fourth place votes and those types of candidates, Zion could sneak into this if he's able to play the 65 games and keep New Orleans, competitive in the Western Conference.
Absolutely. You're tuned to The Baseline. Callie Warren Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA, our 2023-24 NBA Awards preview. Coming up, we give you our picks of who's coming out of the West, where the finalists are, and who ultimately is going to wind up going there. So you do not want to miss out. But first, if you are looking for the ultimate destination for NBA gear, look no further than with the NBA store. With a huge selection of authentic and high-quality products, including jerseys, hats, and accessories, the NBA store has everything you need to show off your team pride. Plus, with exclusive and limited edition items, you can make your collection truly one of a kind. And with an online presence, you can shop from anywhere in the world. Don't miss out on the latest trends and experiences. Visit the NBA store today by clicking our affiliate link. If you're listening to us on your favorite audio platform, be sure to check the link in the description of the show. The Baseline is working in affiliation with the NBA store /Fanatics and will be compensated for your patronage by utilizing our link. And as always, we thank you for your support. More Baseline. Callie Warren Shaw. Don't go away. Yes, sir. Callie Warren Shaw, Baseline NBA Podcast, our 2023-24 NBA Awards preview. And Shaw, nice way for us to cap the show off, to make those picks, man, who we think is going to be participating in the Western Conference Finals and the Eastern Conference Finals. It's pretty interesting. FanDuel odd makers have it, Celtics, Suns, Bucks, Suns. There's a lot of confidence in the Suns. To hell with the Nuggets. You know what I'm saying? How do you have this slated, Shaw? Who do you have as your finalists from the West and the East, and who ultimately do you see, playing against each other?
So in the Western Conference, I go Western Conference Finals first. There's a reason to be optimistic about Phoenix. I'm just so skeptical about their injury history. I think we're going to get a repeat to some degree of Lakers and Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. And I think the NBA script writers have a theme here ready for us. for LeBron to kind of compete for a title, or banner 18 and title 6, I guess, for him. Um, yeah, I'm going to go with the Lakers coming out of the Western Conference. And then on the other side of the basketball court, I have the Eastern Conference being Boston and Milwaukee, and script writers again, Boston and LA meeting up for the NBA championship. I think Milwaukee has just, again, it is exactly even. They can very, very well be there themselves. It would not be surprising in any capacity to me. The East to me is Boston and Milwaukee. The West is Denver, LA, and Phoenix. But I'm going to go with the Boston and the Lakers competing for banner 18 for the ultimate prize in NBA championship glory and history. And LeBron, getting yet another title before he retires.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's going to be Nuggets and Suns, but I think the pathways to those teams, Shaw, will be different than how it played out last year, where I feel like the Nuggets, they're going to do what they do. They're going to dominate. They're going to have a great record. I think their pathway will be, relatively easy. I think for the Suns, their pathway to getting to the finals has to be through the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't know what it is. It's not that it's my belief that, because of Bradley Beal. I think it's more the belief of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and what they'll do if they get themselves into, into the playoff picture. I think that they feel like they have to right a wrong. And I think it's just long overdue for them.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's going to mean that they're going to win, the finals, I don't completely buy it yet. But Frank Vogel has that magic touch, man. Be ironic, you know what I'm saying? If he figures out a way to get the Suns to the finals. But I think
Would it
it's
be great if Vogel was able to go against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, the team that
yeah,
fired him after
yeah.
he won them a championship? So
Absolutely. I want to see that, right? I
right.
want to see that. So don't let my pick diminish what my desire is telling me that I want to see, because I will be there for that. At the end of the day, I think the Nuggets give themselves another opportunity to defend their championship. That being said, I agree with you. I think it's going to come down to the Bucks and the Celtics, and I want to buy into to Missoula, man. I really do. I want to buy into the
It's hard.
team. It's hard to, bro. It's hard to, and it's hard to deny yourself of seeing what you're seeing from Milwaukee. I think it's going to be Bucks Nuggets, and I think when it's all said and done, I think the Bucks wind up winning this championship, man. And I say this to say, if the Celtics and the Bucks play each other in the Eastern Conference Finals, this is going to go 7 games. I think it's going to go 7 games. I think it's going to be a little bit different where the Celtics, lay an egg or nothing like that. I think that both teams are going to just basically just go at each other. Leave nothing in doubt
Yeah.
on the basketball court through the 7 games. It's going to be a brutal series for whoever wins, and I think whoever comes out of it is going to be even stronger. It's like, Super Saiyan strong. You know what I'm saying? Going into that finals, like if they got through whoever they got through in the East, to hell whoever they damn well see in the West, even though the West is amongst the toughest, right, to do it. But I'm just saying, man, like it's I want to buy into the Celtics getting there, and I want to see that championship dream you're talking about, Shaw, between the Celtics and the Lakers. But I'm telling you, them Bucks, boy.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I don't like this version of Giannis, man. I don't. I don't.
There's
I
reason to
don't
be
know if
afraid.
Horse and Company did this move to piss off Giannis, moving Holiday the way that they did. But man, that's like, what I'm saying? That's Bruce Banner like kind of move that they did, man. Now we have no idea what kind of gamma nonsense this boy is on. So
I can't be mad with that pick. Milwaukee is tough. Like they are tough.
just
So as I said, I'm just trying to lean into some optimism, and maybe my Celtics slip is showing here a little bit, trying to get Boston into the NBA finals. Cause every year I pick against them. I'm just like, listen, I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. And there's reasons to feel like they're going to throw up on themselves, as
right.
some people have said on other shows,
Go
when it
Willie
matters
Beeman
most.
Just go Willie Beeman.
Right. So, but I'm going to go against my better judgment and say Boston will get it done this year. They have all the firepower they need. It will be a knockout, drag-out series, and that's why I think a lot of people would pick the Western Conference winner to be the NBA champion, because you presumably think Milwaukee and Boston are going to just beat the hell out of each other in the Eastern Conference Finals and may not have enough to ultimately bring it home. But I think they will. Again, Celtics, Lakers for banner 18. All it chips down, and let's go C's trying to get this one here done.
And I listen. I give you kudos, man. If you really believe in Porzingis's ability to stop the freight train that is
I'm
Giannis.
convincing myself. You know, like you're looking in the mirror. I think
All
I
right.
can. I think
You talk about believing in the unicorn, man.
I'm trying to get there. So, you know, if you like just tap me if a strong wind comes, I'll blow the other way. So like let's not talk about it anymore because I'm not confident, but I'm trying to portray confidence.
You're trying to display it. All right.
Yeah.
Listen, this was why it was great. We were doing audio before video. So just so you know, you put this on you.
Yeah, I did. It's my bad.
Anyway, man, awesome show this week, bro. So much good stuff, man. And again, just when we get to this time of the year where we're actually talking about the individual awards, and yet even in our individualism, so to speak, in our analytics of the individualism, we still talk about how the team aspect of things are so relevant and important for these guys. It speaks to how great this upcoming NBA season is going to be, brother.
It's going to be phenomenal. So I can't wait for everybody to enjoy the ride that is a 6-month NBA season. The injuries that are sure to come, unfortunately, but just the great narrative, the stories that we're going to just engage in kind of throughout. We would hope that we don't have too much negativity, off the court nonsense, and things like that take away from the narrative on the floor. But who's going to be the first coach to be fired? Who's the next big name who's going to be traded? Who makes a smaller move that kind of impacts the team for the good that we may not even think is really the situation here right now? What rookies are going to stand out and really step up here outside of the Chets and the Wembanyamas and Holmgrens, and the Scoot Hendersons of the world? There's just so much to digest throughout the course of an NBA season. And the baseline is here for y'all. Season 11, man. Let's get it.
Absolutely, man. Once again, we appreciate everybody for jumping on board with our 2023-24 NBA preview for the Baseline Callie Warren Show. We appreciate you guys. You know we do. And we'll catch up with you next time.